Yep. Okay, so we're both on screen. I believe both of our mics are live. Welcome, man. This is Fly in Formation. If you don't know, I've been talking to artists across the country, kind of just trying to learn about, different independent scenes, different independent artists that make up those scenes, and, trying to just spread the spotlight as wide as we can across this country because there's so much talent that just kind of gets slept on outside of their own cities. If I'm being honest, there's a lot of people who have fans in their own cities and are doing decent streaming numbers and all that, but the people across the map might not be up on it. So I do what I can to just try to spread love and show people talented artists. So today, I'm talking with KTheChosen. This was very spur of the moment. We planned this out today, and we're just both like, yeah, we're free at 3. Why don't we do one today? So here we are. I mean, artists, take note. That's how you do this thing. I'm pretty flexible with the schedule. I try to do these things on Tuesdays, booked Tuesdays all the way through the end of November. But if people have projects coming out and I've got time to, I'm happy to talk. So yeah, man, thanks for coming by. How you doing?
No, doing great, man. And I really appreciate you being so flexible. I was like super behind on just all the press outreach. And I was like, you know what? I'm just, whenever we can do it, we can do it. But I just have to ask you today. Otherwise, it's not going to get done. And you're like, I'm free today. I was like, all right, cool. Let's do it. So here we are.
Yeah, man. I appreciate the flexibility. It's good to have you. So you mentioned you've got a project coming up next week, right? What's the drop date for it?
So November 3rd. So not this Friday, but literally a week. Well, I guess 8 days from today.
Okay. And you sent that over, little EP, 6 tracks, I believe, called IRL.
IRL.
Yeah, man. And I think, so I've already played Orchard. That was the lead single off of it?
Yes, sir. Yeah. So do you want the story behind that, or?
Yeah, man. I mean, I already played it on Atzik, I think a week or two ago, whenever you dropped that. I was paying attention. So the people would have heard it if they're listening to After the Smoke is Clear. But yeah, tell us about it, man.
No, appreciate it. So Orchard was made with a good friend of mine. His name is Nate Lesko. So he's an artist in his own right. Had a song really blow up just before the pandemic. It's called Miss Me. It was doing some crazy numbers on TikTok and crazy numbers on Spotify because of the TikTok. And then after that, he took a bit of a hiatus. He was like, I need a break. Like, it's been a crazy year. And it just so happened that the pandemic happened. So he actually got to extend his break.
Yeah.
So, the two of us are like really good musical friends, just friends in general, but we've never made any music together. So this is kind of like how big he got on TikTok, is that there were Nate Lesko type beats on YouTube. Nice. So we're just like chilling over the pandemic, and he's like, yo, check this beat out. I'm like, yo, this beat is actually pretty dope, because it was Nate Lesko / Jack Harlow type beat.
Okay.
And it was called Orchid. And I don't know, I misread that as Orchard, and I was like, that's a dope name for a song too. So
just ran with it. Nice. Yeah.
I ran with it. I was like, yeah, this is dope. So I wrote Orchard, and I was like, what would be really cool if we could get Nate Lesko on this Nate Lesko type beat. So I just wrote the song for myself. I was like, this song is dope. I just want to have the song. I was actually working on a different project at the time, and then I kind of put that project on hold because IRL started writing itself. And I was like, okay, Orchard actually fits better in this project than that one. So we'll keep this for that. But as I was writing it, I was like, I wonder what a Nate Lesko type hook would sound like on a KTheChosen type song. So I wrote like the hook and I sent it to him. I was like, what do you think? Like, does this sound like you? And he's like, I'd never use the word vibe, but everything else, I love it. He's like, it's a personal thing for him. He doesn't just like the word vibe. He just would never put it in his own writing.
I've seen talk online about whether or not vibe has reached its pinnacle and is on the way back down, whether we should still be talking about the vibe of things or not. But I think there's still a little bit of lifetime left for it, for sure.
Yeah, this is the last resurgence. We're just like giving it one last breath of life, and then it's done.
Hell yeah.
But I think he sang it beautifully. So he was like, yeah, man, I'll be on the song. And I was like, well, if you're on the hook, you might as well put out a verse. So he wrote his verse. We recorded the song. And I was like, man, I was actually like very, very excited just to get him back into music again. So he also happens to do video directing as well. So I was like, look, if you don't want to put out the song right away, because you just kind of like, I've been away on hiatus for so long, I
Right.
don't know how to come back into the scene. So I'm like, okay, let's ease you back into it. And he does his own like videography through another name, Pink Ruler.
Okay.
And he'd done a music video for another homie of mine. So I was like, hey, let's work on a music video. So we did the music video for The Nod, which came out around this time last year. So it's kind of like each year we're getting to like revamp stuff. So we did the music video for The Nod together. People received it really well. So I was like, look, I think we make beautiful work together. Let's do a video for Orchard and put out the song. And boom, those two things are now out. And I was like, this is the perfect way to introduce the project, because I think Orchard is a little more raunchy than any other song that people have heard from me in the past. I don't think this is the first time me covering this subject matter. I've definitely talked about this kind of stuff before, but it's just like in your face this time. I'm like, yeah, man, like it's in the hook, it's in the verses.
Yeah, tough to miss what you're putting down there for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But because it's such a catchy beat, a lot of people just are like vibing to it first, and then like, oh, this is dirty. I'm like, yeah,
dude. I mean, it won't be the first dirty hip hop music around, right? Like that's a style for sure. I think there are people out there looking for that music. I mean, yeah, there's a time and a place for all types of music, man. I think that's a necessary style of music for somebody to be making for sure, right?
And it's fun. And it's a lot of fun, and that's what I mean. Where it's like, it's not different, but it's definitely a little bit of like a lane change, which is great, because I think this whole project, IRL, is a bit different from what people are expecting from me. So it's nice to give them the shock first and then kind of like ease them into it.
That's an interesting question. What would you think people are expecting from you?
So the last couple of projects have been very like, how would I say, kind of like looking at the world and reflecting on what I'm seeing, especially advice, because it was written during the pandemic. So I'm talking about mental well-being. I'm talking about, social justice, social activism, as well as feminism, because a lot of like my close friends are female identifying. And, like you were saying at the very beginning, there's a lot of dope artists in each of these individual cities, but they don't even know about each other.
Yeah.
But even within the city, sometimes people kind of stick to their cliques. Like if you're in the Northwest, you only work with the people in the Northwest.
Yep.
If you consider yourself like, a super hard rapper, you might not work with the female rappers. But I was like, no, let's get everybody together. There's lots of collaborative work. It's also because there was so many stories to tell over this project.
Right.
So I think it was a very heady album. It was a very like introspective, very like, okay, we're thinking. So even when I play the music, it's not really like jump up and like dance kind of music. It's more like, okay, head bob, listen to it kind of music, right? Which is music that I love. That's what got me into hip hop. But like you said, there's a time and place for every kind of like sound of music or genre of music.
Somebody's got to make music for the club too. We can't all be making the headphone music or whatever, right? Like that. Exactly. I gravitate toward headphone stuff too, stuff that you want to just put on and vibe to, or like, cruise around to or whatever, but where you're just more chill listening to the lyrics or whatever. But somebody needs to make music for people to dance to too. So I felt like there was some at least like R&B dancey stuff on this new EP, right? Like,
yeah, 100%. Like it's definitely more singing than I've done. The people who have listened to it early were like, yo, like you're getting better at singing. Like, great, because I used to be so tone deaf. So it's a bit of I still feel like it could be better, but I think with each project, I'm upping my skills. So that's also that people might not be expecting, just to hear more of an R&B melodic sound from me compared to usually just like the straight raps.
Right. Okay. So you came from the school of just straight emceeing, rappity rap, right? Okay.
Rappity rap.
And have been trying to. So is it a conscious effort to try to make maybe more, I don't know, commercially accessible or I guess music that might be popular? That's the only way that I can really put it. I mean, like I talk to a lot of artists and we talk about like, why do you make the music the way you make it? And like, I love to hear people's motivations for why they're doing the things, because there's such a spectrum of what people want their music to do when they put it out into the world. So like with an album like this, man, like, it sounded to me like it's obviously targeting like female audience and people who want to be listening to music while they're in love type situations, whatever, right? So it's very relatable. Like love music is something that everybody in the world is going to be able to relate to at some point in their life, for sure. Was it a conscious effort to be more relatable to more people?
Most definitely. I feel like there's this weird thing where rap is all, like I said, like for me, it's lyricism first. But sometimes you end up getting this thing where it's like, okay, only the rappers want to listen to that because they want to analyze the bars. They want to be like, "Yo, the syllable count is crazy, or this flow is crazy, or did you notice what he did? And I think I love that's the sport of hip hop and the sport of rap. But also it's like you have to be honest about your situation, right? If you're trying to be like a career musician or, be in entertainment long term, you've also got to think about, okay, but what sells?
Yeah.
But not just sells in terms of, making like silly songs just so that, you get to numbers, but more like what's your natural path? Like what way will you be able to sustainably continue to do what you're doing?
Right.
So if you're straight lyricism, it's probably going to be more like underground, because then you can do underground shows, you can do like, cypher videos and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if you're kind of in the middle where you want to be able to do, festivals, or you want to be able to tour, not all your music needs to be super easy to listen to, but you've got to have some songs where you're like, okay, if I give this to anyone, they'll listen to it. Then they come to your catalog and they realize, oh, wow, there's actually like, you've got a diverse palette.
Hell yeah.
And for me, the most important thing has been figuring out, okay, how do I make hooks that are just as strong as the bars? And that doesn't necessarily mean that the hooks need to be super layer heavy, but more like, you hear the hook once and you want to say it again. That's kind of the effect you're looking for.
Yeah, if people are walking away from something that's like supposed to be an accessible single and they can't sing the hook after the song ends, it didn't work. You got to get it stuck in their head. You need that earworm or whatever, right?
Yeah, and I think that in itself is part of the sport, because like, how do you make a good song? It's all encompassing. The lyrics have to be good, the beat has to be good. You've got to be writing the beat well, because sometimes people get amazing beats, and you don't know what to do with them. So the challenge for me was like, how do I continue to like improve my hook game? But also, like you mentioned, the relatability part of it. I think with the last project, Advice, because I was talking about the pandemic, it was something that globally was being experienced. So talking about social issues and talking about, mental well-being is an easy topic to approach in that era, because everybody was going through a feeling of isolation, a feeling of mistrust, a feeling of uncertainty,
And it was popular to talk about those feelings too in, popular media or whatever. The news was telling us, like, make sure you get out and talk to people,
Which has been important forever, but now we're all honing in on that. So with this one, it was more like, okay, what am I personally going through? What are the changes I've seen since the pandemic? What are the things in my life that I've needed music for? So like you said, like R&B and being able to talk about relationships, it's easily relatable because we all go through these things. We all go through the feeling of being in love. We go through the feeling of breakups. We go through that weird period in between where maybe you're being successful and your relationship with your friends is changing. So not just relationships like romantic, but relationships within friends, within businesses. And it was actually like a really cool mashup of being vulnerable, but making like really catchy hooks, because like, cool, we can sing along to this and then like really get into our feels on this. It was a good feeling, very cathartic, to be honest. As I was making it, I was like, you know what? I think people will enjoy this.
That's kind of unique, because I think a lot of the people, when they're talking about like kind of more mainstream, accessible, more poppy music or whatever, they tend to discredit the actual authenticity of the emotion that can be put into those songs, right? So I think another thing that's really important for artists to do is, be accessible, but you still have to do it authentically, right? Like, it still has to be something that you actually can tell the story of from your own shoes, I feel like. And it made me wonder, like, listening to your new project here, like, how much of those are actual personal stories that you're telling, and how many are kind of like role playing a character that may have went through something?
That's a brilliant question. So it's always weird talking about projects post, because now you're like, now I have to like tell you how I got to this. I just want to leave you to have your own interpretation.
See, and dude, I don't want to, if you don't want to, spread share the magic and tell us the details of the spells that went into these things, then don't. But, I do respect that art is something that can just be put out into the world and, left on the platter for people to take it how they want to take it. but you
No,
know.
I didn't talk about it. No, that's all. Like, it's such a good question because I feel like even in answering it, I'll obviously I'm going to kind of see, okay, which part do I want to tell you, which part will I maybe keep,
For
just so
sure.
that there's a little bit of magic, and anyone who's watching it right now won't get too many spoilers before the project.
Right.
I'll actually just start from the title because a lot of it just came from inspiration about, like, I love concept projects. So if I can think of a concept that's really cool to me, it's very easy to write because I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a challenge trying to get this concept across.
Yeah.
So I don't remember how I got to this, but I just kept thinking about that acronym IRL. It's very, like, not trendy, but like current in that a lot of the time we spend time online.
Yeah.
So you actually have to like specify that, oh, this is what happened in real life, because everything else is kind of like fictional. It's on the internet, or it's made up.
As somebody who spends a ton of time on the internet, man, like, and in Twitch chat and all this type of stuff, where you're talking to people who their moniker, their screen name, and then sometimes you're like, wait, do you guys actually know each other in real life? To two other guys in chat, and they'll say, yeah, in IRL we do, and I've heard there's kind of been a commentary about like how we should stop saying that, because to people who spend all of our fucking time online is real life, right? You know what I mean? So like, my image online has to be the same reality that the reality is, right? So yeah, man, it's an interesting one. I like the title IRL. But yeah, it made me wonder, like, so are we talking about like away from a computer, or are we talking about like these are real stories that happened to me?
Yeah, no, exactly that. So that's hilarious because now you've pointed out two words that apparently I'm using that the internet's moving on from. So vibe and IRL.
Well, I don't know. That might just be some super nerd. Like the people who live online might be the only ones who don't like IRL. They tell me to say AFK, right? Like away from keyboard. We know each other like AFK.
Okay. Well, that's for me. But actually, once you said, I was like, oh no, I have heard that before.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, AFK. Interesting. Maybe that'll be the follow up to IRL.
Yeah. Word.
So it is a bit of both. So IRL, in that I was kind of looking at like post advice. It did really, really well in terms of press. So I was able to like speak on TV. I was in newspapers and stuff. The KTheChosen persona kind of blew up within like just one project with like, no, that's the go-to guy to do stuff with. And it was kind of making me feel like, oh no, I'm doing great. Like, so even when I'm posting, like, oh, I'm at this event, oh, I'm doing this. But then at some point, like, I was getting really, really tired and kind of, just feeling like I was being pulled in all directions. So like in real life, I was actually super tired. But online, I'm like, no, I'm out here, I'm doing things.
Yeah.
So that's the first kind of layer, that in real life being like, oh, this is what you guys are seeing, but in real life, this is what I'm going through.
Right.
But then, like I said, I was like, having so much fun with just playing with the letters. I was like, what if I had a project that kind of broke IRL into different ideas? So you get in real life, which is the kind of like the acronym that everybody knows.
Yeah.
But I kind of came up with my own new ones. So I Rarely Lie was another track on the project, and that kind of goes through I guess breakups and the things that might seem like my actions and my words are not matching up. But actually, I'm not lying. I'm just like, I've said one thing, but you're acting another way. So I'm trying to like meet you where you're at. But if you're paying attention to what I'm saying, you're going to realize that my actions might not be lining up.
Right.
But it's not a lie. It's more like maybe I'm so into you that I'm adjusting to fit what you're doing, but my core values are here. So again, kind of like that. Who am I in real life, and who am I maybe online, or who am I in relationships? Because like you said, the persona or the moniker online has to match the real person.
Right.
But now it depends who came first. Did the online presence find its roots first, or did the real person find its roots first? And kind of like you're almost battling between these two versions of yourself.
Yeah.
So you've got that. So that's kind of where the real stories come in, where I had to dig deep and to be like, okay, when have I ever felt like I wasn't being real? Whenever I ever felt like I'm challenging the character that you see and the character that I am. So a lot of the stories in there are pretty true. What I've done is that I have maybe taken part A of a story and part B of another story and put them into one story, just so that the person in conversation, or the person I'm talking about, won't be able to be like, oh, wait a minute, you're talking about us. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you and someone else.
Dude, I
But
always wonder, like, you know, you listen to Drake or whatever, and it's like, is there a woman out there who like knows that song is about her every time? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah,
and I think Drake does that on purpose because one, he mentions people by name a lot,
right,
or he call out like, you know, where they work. You know, he'd be like, you know, I know this girl from the Cheesecake Factory, blah blah blah.
right.
Which, you know, there's draws and there's pros and cons. I think the pro is that obviously if it's like a positive light on that person, they're probably very like honored to be mentioned in a song. The con obviously is if he's talking about how she cheated or whatever, she's gonna feel attacked.
Or how he cheated, or yeah,
She's
yeah, right.
just finding out like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah,
So that can be kind of crazy. So I don't know. For me, like it's important to be honest in the music because that's like you said, just um, you know, not kind of selling out to create a persona when you're being vulnerable to people. It's more like, no, this is
totally.
actually how I've gone through things, and that's why you relate to me. I'm not creating a story that's so well written that you believe in it. It's more like, no, this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
Just with a little bit of spice added.
Hell yeah, man. So who produced the beats on this project?
It's a crazy collection of producers. Majority are local to Calgary. So let me see if I can go through them in my head. So first one, in real life, so that was a YouTube beat, but that was just dope. Like I was like, I can't not use this beat.
Sometimes the YouTube beat, yeah, the song ends up too good. Yeah,
it ends up too good because usually like what I'll do is I might write to a YouTube beat and then try and find something similar from someone local,
right?
And then that way, like we can continue to work on it or tweak it or whatever.
I love that, man. As soon as you said that most of the productions are local, round of applause for that.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
No, I shout out to all the Calgary producers, and I'm still trying to like meet others outside of the city, like link with people in Edmonton and around Canada.
Yeah.
But the Calgary producers are really they're super chill because we've got such an eclectic range of producers. So for example, I Really Lie, that's a guy named Crispy. And he is really into like live instrumentation and sampling.
Okay.
So like, if you go to his page, you just see him break down how he's produced things, and it's actually really fun. That's actually how I ended up working with him because I think he followed me online, and then I went to his page and I just saw him break down a beat, and I was like, hey, we need to work together. The way that you broke that down means I already like the way you think, and he helped me in the project before kind of compose. I had a song which was like the outro to Advice.
Yeah.
And it was a very like hard boom bap type beat, which is great. But then I wanted it to end on a very emotional kind of level. So he kind of just composed like these piano keys and he added strings to it. I was like, oh, it's the same beat, but now it sounds more chill. We took out the drums. It was just my voice. And that's why I love working with people because then you can actually break down the instrumentation and like build on it.
Totally. Dude, what you said about seeing the making of beat video by him too, and then having that be the reason kind of that you reached out to him and decided like, oh, that's somebody I want to work with. That's a gem right there, man. That's online marketing gems for people to be picking up because that's just it's an example of, hey, if you're a beat maker, yeah, having a BeatStars or whatever, Airbit, wherever you want to put your beats to sell them, have that site up. But you also got to be presenting yourself as a real person making those beats. The beat making videos. Yeah, right. You gotta let people relate to it. Otherwise, you're just another nameless, faceless guy making the beats. And I think that goes beyond just beat making too, or whatever. It goes for rappers and everybody else.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think what people have to remember is that when you're reaching out to someone, like, hey, I like your song, let's work together. It's like, well, first of all, if you heard a song, it means I'm already working with someone. And two, you're not the only person. We maybe get 10 of these emails or DMs a day.
Yeah.
So how do you stand out? What are you doing differently from everybody else? So,
exactly. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the rest of the beats though too from local guys?
So I want to talk about I Really Love, which I feel like is kind of like the heart of the project because it's the longest song. It's also like the most vulnerable. Pretty much everything I said in that is 100% true.
Yeah.
And the fact that it splits between two beats. So I'm not going to go too deep into like what the difference is so that people can go in and enjoy them.
Right.
But it was made by the same producer. I came up to him, I said, hey man, look, I need a song that's super high energy and then super slow and emotional. Just that you get two sides of the same song, but I also want the challenge because that was the hardest song to work on. So his name is Chris Merrick.
Okay.
We actually worked together at One Big Jam. He's the founder and kind of like the curator director, where it's an improvised concert series. So you can start the event with a house band. and they'll just start playing maybe jazz, or they'll play a blues song. And then throughout the event, it's a 3-hour event, we just invite other musicians in the audience to join in. So if you're a drummer, you switch out with the drummer. If you
Nice.
are a vocalist, you come in. So it's just like 3 hours of live music. But that's what I love about Chris. He's got such a great ear for like, hey, you, what you're doing there, keep doing it. You, stop drumming. You, do this. And then the song suddenly changes and you're like, what is happening? You know, so he's a master chef. Give him the ingredients and he'll make something cool out of it. And I would definitely encourage anyone who's in town. I think the next one is in December. December is usually like our biggest event. Come through to One Big Jam, or at least follow us online and just kind of see what we're doing. The concert series is the main thing that we do, but we're always looking for different ways to collaborate with artists.
So the events are called One Big Jam? That's the...
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, dope.
That's the idea.
Is it always at the same venue or just wherever it works?
So it moves around. It kind of depends on which event it is.
Yeah.
So like I said, the December one is our biggest one. It's like the holiday mashup with send off. So that one is usually at the Palace Theater. It will be there this year again. I'm just forgetting the date. I think it's the 20th of December. I have to confirm that for you.
Okay. People got time to look it up.
Yeah, if you just follow One Big Jam, they'll announce the date at some point. But yeah, that's our big one where we just invite everybody in the city to come through.
Nice.
And then other events kind of just depend. So we've had galleries reach out to us and say, hey, we've got a new exhibit coming out. Can you activate the gallery with the One Big Jam? We've had banks come and say, hey, we've got this new branch opening. Can you come and activate that way? So
Nice.
yeah.
No.
So it was an interesting event.
How about recording for this album? What was the process like for that? Did you home record or go into studio, or how'd that go?
So that was in the studio. So 2 studios were involved. So this is actually, this is where it's kind of like the combination of the cities. So for Orchard, we recorded in Edmonton at Resonant Studios with Conch.
Yeah.
That happened just because that's a frequent collaborator for Nate Lesko. He also does a lot of he's an artist himself, so he does a lot of pop music. So it's like, you know what, as we're going towards this sound, maybe it's better to work with an engineer who's more familiar with that kind of production.
I did a project at Resonate. Shouts to Donna. He was the guy that was engineering for me. But yeah,
nice.
I know of Conch as well. He's I believe he's like Mitchell Lawler's homie. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, this is a great studio, great school. So shout out to Conch and the whole of Resonant Studio. So I did. Orchard was recorded and mixed there. The whole album was mastered at Resonant, but the rest of it was recorded locally here at Third Verse Studios. So that's my business partner, Nee, and our other business partner, Chef Beats. So he makes some crazy beats. Like his range is crazy. So working on another project with him. But yeah, just all the recording was done in Calgary, and then we sent it all off to Edmonton for the mixing.
Dope. So I've been working on a theory as I talk to all these different artists, and as I, over the years have read artist biographies and stuff. I want to start asking people, do you have any older relatives who make music? Are you from a musical family? Because my theory is that it might take a generation or two to make a success story in music. I feel like a lot of the people whose stories I'm hearing are like, yeah, my uncle helped me write grants or whatever. So I wanted to ask about how you got into music and whether kind of family upbringing had part of that.
That's a solid theory because I think it's probably true. So even if the person you're speaking to doesn't have a relative, they're probably going to end up becoming that relative 2 or 3 lines down the road.
Yeah, I'm personally looking at my nephew, here, take this microphone.
That's great. You've got to inspire the next generation.
Hell yeah, man.
Amazing. So yeah, my family definitely upbringing inspired the musical side of things. So my dad, he's a lawyer, but was a DJ for a very long time. So my introduction to music was just through his catalog. He had a study full of CDs and cassettes and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's actually how I got into hip hop and jazz. And then
I'm awarding myself 10 points. I fucking nailed it.
Hang on. Yeah. So DJing. So obviously, because he's a DJ, he's a bit of an audiophile. So we'll listen to music on these big ass speakers. When the beats first came out, he's like, "I'm gonna get these. You've got to test out these headphones." So even when my music comes out, he'd be like, "Okay, the mix is a little bit."
Right.
Even my class, when I want to go to a show, he's like, "Okay, you've got to go see Kendrick, or you've got to go see this person." So very inspirational in terms of just my love for music.
Right.
His uncle, so I guess my second uncle or something like that, is a fairly prominent musician in Zimbabwe. So he plays mbira, which is like I don't know if you've heard of, like it's like the thumb piano.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, I vaguely know what you're talking about, but yeah.
yeah, I think other people know it as a kalimba.
Okay.
Is the name of I've seen. I think it's a slightly different instrument, but I've seen that's more popular in North America.
Similar.
So yeah, choir master, singer. My grandmother's a reverend, so she tends to lead the church choir. She's an amazing singer.
Public speaking all kind of goes hand in hand with, yeah,
All coming
totally
together.
getting on
Yeah,
stage.
yeah,
Yeah. Right
yeah.
on, man. Yeah.
Definitely all creative family.
Hell yeah, man. Can I ask you? I like to ask people this one. Do you get more fulfillment from being on stage performing, or from making the music, like writing and actually recording the music, the studio session? Because I get different answers from different people, man.
So I think before it used to be the writing and the recording, just because you've come up with an idea from scratch and you're just like, whoa, I just put that down. Honestly, now it's the performance, because I think the song sounds so different when it's coming out from you live, but also the experience is different because now you're getting a reaction. When you're in the studio, it's like obviously like the first time your engineer or your producer or whoever hears the song, they're gonna be like, oh, that's dope. But
Yeah.
then when you're doing like a long session, they've heard the same line 50 times. By the end of it, they're like, yeah, okay, that's the one. Just move on, just move on, just move on. Let's go.
Yeah.
But when you're performing it live, it's always different because you might miss a word, you might start freestyling based on what's going on in the audience, or you just might be happening to play a song that really resonates with someone in the audience. I remember this one time, I had a punchline about like Superman and Clark Kent and being able to see through things. And I performed this song like at least 20 times and no one had ever caught that bar. So I actually stopped like putting emphasis on that bar. I was kind of like, whatever, let's move on.
Yeah.
And then I performed it this one small little cafe. So everyone's like super close. I can see everyone's face and everything. The look of surprise on this person's face when they caught the bar, like, yo! So I looked at them like, yo, you caught that? And it was beautiful because it actually almost messed up my performance because now I got excited. I was like, damn, you actually caught that.
Yo, let's just stop and break down that bar. Yeah. Yeah. So
it was something so small, but it really gave me like that feeling of, okay, cool. Like this actually made sense. Someone caught it. There is an audience for this line. So after the song, I even just shouted at that person. I was like, yo, shout out to you. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't know how you caught that, but like, I saw it on your face. Thank you. So I don't know. It gives new meaning to the songs. It's always great to just get the feedback from people. But I don't say that to say like, I like performing more than. I just feel like in the moment, it's definitely a way more fulfilling feeling.
Sure.
Whereas the writing, I think is like a longer term thing where you write the song, you feel happy once you've recorded it, you feel happy once you're performing it, you feel happy when you're seeing it being streamed. So it's almost like an ongoing feeling, whereas performance, you feel it right there and there.
Hell yeah. Can I just ask what you've been listening to lately? Like, what's on rotation?
Rotation right now, we've got Doja Cat. She's one of my favorite artists. I know a little controversial, but for me, it's just, I think she's just a pure talent. Like she raps really well, sings really well, performs really well. And she's a troll. So she trolls really, really well. I mean, whether you like her or not, you probably know who Doja Cat is.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and that's a way to stay, in the headlines or whatever. Like even...
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we won't get into it too much, but even with Kanye West and all of the ranting that he's done over the past, 5-10 years, that man knows how to stay in the headlines. And like, I often was telling my friends, like, nah, he just says wild shit so that people fucking talk about him more. Like, that may not be able to excuse some of what he said or whatever, which, but yeah, I think some of the time it is smart marketing to say inflammatory things,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think in his case, I think that's just who he is.
Yeah.
But I think it definitely kind of got maybe like it exploded or magnified once he started becoming more and more popular. Where it's kind of like, I think he had that persona and he had who he really is, but because people kept reacting to that persona, it kind of fueled that persona. But again, I don't know Kanye personally, so I can't speak to that, but
for sure,
it's definitely one of those things where it's like, I think at the beginning was kind of entertaining. Now it's like kind of concerning. It's like, bro.
Yeah. Hopefully there's good people around him that can help him out or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyways, I don't want to get into it.
No, I just finished Sampha's new album. Sampha is just, my gosh, he's so good. I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'm saying this music sounds great.
Just sonically, yeah.
Just sonically, like he just takes you on this like daydream. So like I think he's one of my favorite artists who's like non-hip hop because I'll just listen and just be taken away and just enjoy. Whereas when I'm listening to like rappers and other more lyrical genres, and not to say that I don't think Sampha is pretty lyrical. I think he does say things that are very deep, but you just kind of feel first before listening.
Yeah.
Whereas with other rappers or people who are more maybe even R&B, I'm always listening to the lyrics first. So if your song sounds dope, but you're saying nonsense, like I might not come back to your project.
Yeah, fair enough.
If I've come to you because I'm just trying to like tune out, then that's fine. But usually if someone's considered like a dope rapper and I listen to them, I'm like, yeah, these bars are not great.
Yeah.
I check out.
Dude, personally, I have a tough time like maintaining conversation. Like if I had rap playing in the background right now, like the lyrics pull me into it to the point where like I tune out of conversations or whatever. So yeah, it's definitely good to have some music that is just about the vibe. It is good to have that music that you can put on and actually have on at a party or whatever. Dude, what else can I ask you here? Can we get into some opinion questions? Things that there's no real right answer to? How about is social media a pain in the ass or is it a blessing?
Love that. So self-plug here. I actually did a TED Talk on social media and what do we call it? Leadership and social media. Essentially, I was just talking about, hey, look, again, these things happened during the pandemic. So, with everybody posting about certain things online because we're all at home, they caught traction really, really quickly. And I think social media is amazing because you can get information that you might not have had access to before.
Right.
But obviously, it also means that the wrong things can get more attention than others. So I feel like social media is a tool. It's just about who's like wields the power or how you're using that tool. Because honestly, if you're a good person, you'll probably use social media well. If you're kind of got more nefarious needs or things you want to do with it, you might actually still use it well, but then, with the wrong intention behind it. So honestly, I don't think we can blame social media. It's more like, what are we doing with social media that's causing harm to society?
Yeah, that's fair, man. I like that. How about from an artist standpoint? Like, is it a big point or is it a big part of your promotional push, the social media stuff? Or I guess kind of what's your strategy for promotion?
Sure. So for me, I am lucky that I enjoy social media. So actually, I don't know, was it you or someone else who said this? So I remember someone saying that Twitter should be the biggest social media platform for rappers.
Yeah, I talk about that shit all the time, man. Rappers should use their words. To me, like I rant on Twitter. Now I'm on Threads because fuck Elon. But so I'm rebuilding the platform over on Threads now or whatever. But yeah, man, we're a bunch of MCs. We're running around saying thousands of words on stage, and then everybody goes silent when it's time to go home or whatever. So yeah.
And I appreciate that. So the funny thing is, I'm the exact opposite. So because I spend so much time writing words and rapping at people, I don't like promoting that way because I think it's too wordy. I like to leave it more abstract. So that's actually why I love Instagram, because Instagram is all about visuals. So I love to like curate photo shoots or curate video trailers to build a story around a project. So you'll get a whole story within my visual storytelling that has nothing to do with the immediate information in the project. So you're like, what's happening here? And then you go to a project and you're like, okay, I get the same themes, but you actually didn't tell me anything about the music. I'm like, exactly, because I want you to go and listen to it. I'm not going to tell you everything that's going on in the music here.
Yeah.
So for me, I love social media for that, but it also means I'm very selective with the social media I use. So I've got a Twitter or an X, but I don't really use it. I guess habits that someone else can't pretend to be me.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, in case you ever want to start using it, it's good to lock down the name.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on, man. How about how important is a good stage show?
Oh, 100%, super important. Like, I don't think, especially so talking about streaming and social media and whatnot.
Yeah,
it's not really to any it's not to the fans' benefit if you only make good recorded music, because then they never have to leave their home to listen to you. You also are not going to make a lot of money off the streaming music. So
Yeah.
you've got to be able to give a killer performance, because otherwise, why am I leaving my house to see you?
Hell yeah.
If it sounds better recorded, or even if it sounds better recorded, but you give a different experience live, that's still good, because you've made it worth me coming to see you live. It's also where you get to know how your music is doing. Like, yes, when you're streaming and whatnot, you get to see the statistics. So you can say, okay, I'm doing great in Japan, I'm doing this, but you have no context. Why do the people in Japan love you?
Yeah.
When you go, you might realize, oh, I didn't realize that, culturally, my music is on a frequency that really resonates with people in Japan, or maybe I'm just a really good cultural fit. So now you can actually start making more music that leans into that.
Right.
But until you go outside, you have no idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. When you perform, do you like having a DJ or a hype man on stage, or do you prefer to be up there just by yourself?
I honestly think that was really just due to budget constraints. So at the beginning, it was like, here's my flash drive. Can you play my music, whatever? Obviously, as you grow as an artist, you can actually bring more people on stage. So I love to have at least one other person there, just so that I can truly focus just on the lyrics, and then someone else is doing the starting, the stopping. It also just adds, again, that level to what's different about your live performance compared to your recorded. So when you've got a DJ, they might scratch in between. You might decide, you know what? I actually want to perform this song today. I want to freestyle. Your DJ will have a beat in there that you can just switch and you just start freestyling. Whereas if it's you with the flash drive, it's like, 1 second, and it breaks that immersion.
Definitely, man. Yeah.
And I love performing with the band. Again, just budget constraints in that I can't bring the band out all the time. So it's obviously based on the event and the venue. If they're paying well, then I can pay the band, then it's great. If they're not, I'm like, guys, I'm not going to bring you out for something that I don't feel is worth your time.
So you have a band who you play with regularly then? Same guys?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So they're called the Nomads. So we formed pretty much a year ago. So I was playing my first major festival performance. I played Sled Island. And I was like, yeah, I can't play Sled Island just me and a DJ. I gotta have a band. So Chris, again, from One Big Jam. That's also, I think, why it was great working on a beat together, because I think we've worked together in such different capacities. So making a beat was the first time that we're making music together from scratch, but we've always freestyled and jammed out together. So we've got a good idea of how we both like to approach music. And he's crazy. He's got a theremin. So he plays all our keys and then he'll just go crazy on the theremin. And
those things are wild, man. Yeah.
It's wild. It's one of the best parts of my live show. I'm like, it's my show, but really it's Chris's show. Because once he stops going crazy, people are just looking at him. I'm like, hey, I'm still here though. I'm rapping.
Dude, you look like a wizard when you're playing a theremin. I had a buddy who had a theremin. Sounds like same type of people. Guys in jam bands love theremins, man.
Yes.
Yeah, and so coming up, I have been around a theremin, and for people who don't know, it looks like a crystal ball, or at least the one that my buddy did. And the closer you move your hand to it, it is, I don't know, sensing electricity in the air or something, and fucking changes the pitch, and is
like aliens.
Crazy instrument.
Alien sounds you hear that.
Yeah,
that's a theremin.
Hell yeah,
that is a theremin. So Chris's one is actually it's like a stick.
Okay.
So he that's kind of like a wand, but like you said, he still looks like a wizard because he'll just be doing this.
Yeah, right. People are like, "What's happening? How is he changing it?" Yeah.
Even though our press photos are just him
Beautiful, man. This is one I've been asking everybody and getting different answers on. How important is opening when the big name acts come to town?
This is a very great question. Because my opinion on it has changed in the last year.
Yeah, dude, I think most musicians coming up trying to figure this whole thing out don't know for sure the answer to this question. There's so many angles to it. So
yeah. So I just want to take a step back to just shout out the other two members of my band, just because I was like, again,
sorry, yeah, let's do it. Yeah.
So one of the other members of my band, his name is Fallen Wall. So he's a producer as well. So we've worked on a lot of music.
I actually interviewed Fallen Wall with Rubik's for their Shadows Work project last year.
Yeah, he's great. So for me, I've always said that his production is like Flying Lotus. It's very like experimental, but like crazy drums. Like I love, and there's so much space in his production.
Big bass on the stuff he was doing with Rubik's anyways. Yeah, it was all like festival ready, take it to the festival and let people dance.
When he was playing me some of the stuff, I was like, hey, how come Rubik's got all the good beats? So he plays guitar in our band, and like he's crazy. And then Romai X, he's also an artist. So I think that's also the other cool thing about my band is that because they're all artists and we've also worked in production in one way or another,
right?
All have a very good understanding of my music. So he engineered a lot of my projects before this one. So he recorded, he mastered, and all this stuff. But then he's just on the beat machine, so he does percussion, and it's great because I don't know, it's kind of cool to be able to play the exact same drums you've got in the instrumental, but play them live, So yeah, shout out to the Nomads, and then DJ Catfish, the Wizard is our DJ. So yeah, much love for the Nomads. So
hell yeah, man. Back to here. Let me ask it again. How important is it to open when big name rappers come through town?
Right. So I'll start off with my view on that before and how my view has changed.
Sure.
So coming up as an artist in the early stages, I was like, that's part of the game. You have to do that. That's the only way that you get known. It's the only way that you actually get any kind of notoriety. And it's the only way that you ever get like signed or get to co-headline is that you have to be in front of the artist physically for them to see you, be like, whoa, you're amazing. Yeah. And then they take you on tour and wow, look at that. You're the next Drake. So that was my beginning.
I mean, it could happen, I guess. it could go that way.
Like, that's what you have to do. That is the only plan. As I've grown as an artist, first of all, I realized that there's so many ways to be an artist. You could be purely a studio artist. If you only want to record music and have people go crazy for you online, that's allowed because you might not have great stage presence. You might not have any interest in going on tour because tour can be tiring, or you just, I don't know, maybe you're just super introverted. So you love for people to hear your music, but you don't want to be outside with them, right? So there's that. You could be a songwriter. So similar idea, just that you don't even record. People don't even know what you sound like. They just hear your lyrics. You could be primarily a touring artist, so now your music has to be made for live audiences. Right. Or you can kind of be in between where you're a studio artist, but you perform sometimes. That might translate to you becoming like a touring artist. It might translate to you being more on the sync side, like getting lots of placements in movies and whatnot. And that's really good money because you don't have to be there. Yeah. That's the other thing that people have to realize, that touring is fun, but if you don't perform, you don't get paid. So that was,
dude. And even if you are performing, I mean, like touring is, a lot of people come back broker than they started when they get back from their tour, right? Touring costs a lot of money. You're renting a van, you're renting equipment, you're paying musicians, you're paying management or whatever, security maybe, depending how big you are or how you want to do it. Like, yeah, there's so much that comes along with it. Hotels, food, it stacks up pretty quick. And then, venue wants to give you a few $100. That might be enough, It might cover it. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I realized is that people were putting a lot of eggs in one basket with the headlining or opening for a headliner equation. Yeah. Because first of all, you're assuming that you have the same audience as the headliner. So they might be a huge artist, but if their audience is different from yours, you getting in front of them could actually be detrimental to you because they're like, okay, we don't know who this guy is. If you're great or like really good at converting, like if you've got really good crowd work, it might not matter. It might be like, yo, you're so outside of their scope, but you wowed them that they're now coming to you. Amazing. But the other thing too is that, so part of like the dream of, okay, I'm going to open up for this artist and then they're going to sign me. Majority of the time, the artists aren't even there during your set. No. So it's really just bragging rights. It's something that people don't realize. It's like, oh, I opened for X, whoever. And yeah, but that person didn't see you. The people who came to see them saw you, but that person didn't actually see you. Yeah. So that's one of the realities that people overlook. The other thing too is the back end. How did you get to open up for this headliner? Are you opening up for this headliner because you are the biggest act in your city, so they want you to bring an audience for this person? Right. Or was it kind of like we've got this free slot, whoever wants to play, go and play? Was it whoever sells the most tickets? Was it, hey, we've got this slot, pay and we'll put you in. Yeah. And that's another thing that people haven't looked at is like, how are you getting that headliner spot?
To me, I feel like promoters should be paying enough attention to their local city scene to be able to put in the guys who actually matter. But
Right.
I don't think that they are a lot of the time, man. I don't think that they are. Like, it comes down to that whole like click thing, you know, like it seems like most promoters have like three homies who they'll give all the shows to or whatever, and whether those guys really like fit the bill or like make similar music to the artist who's coming, questionable, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that whole everybody sticks to their clicks, whether it's promotion or artists or whatever, anybody, fans too, right?
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
but yeah, man, it's important, I think, to get people out there in front of new crowds for sure.
Yeah.
But you're very right in like, how did you get that is the important question to be asking there, and does it make sense for you to
Yeah.
be at that show? Yeah. uh,
Exactly.
uh,
So for
yeah,
me, I'm like, it's not a strategy. You can't be like, my goal as an artist is to open up for someone, especially because that also just limits your growth, because your goal is not to be the someone who's headlining. Your goal is to open up for someone. It's like, no, no, just you should want to be the headliner.
yeah,
Obviously, on the other side of things, though, I think it is important for the music economy, especially in any given city, that you do have local acts interacting with headliners,
yeah,
even if they don't actually get to meet. But what happens is that when people come from other cities, or when majority of your city comes to see this act, at least they're going to see what the local talent is, because maybe they're not the kinds that come to open mics or smaller shows. They only go to big concerts. So they need to see, okay, who's actually representing us when we talk about Calgary or Edmonton or Alberta hip hop?
yeah,
You know, who are we actually talking about? But that's also why it's important that this person has to be a good representation and someone who aligns with that music.
yeah.
Because sometimes people are like, this is us. This is our music here. I'm good. I don't want to listen to anything coming out of Calgary. And it's like, oh, that's not fair. I don't even know who this guy is.
Well, or they'll see, yeah, exactly. They see somebody get put on and they're like, this is the best guy that Calgary has to open for them. Well, then, yeah, Calgary must not have any good rappers or whatever, right? Exactly that. Yeah. So
yeah. So
it's wrong that Calgary has all sorts of talent. Edmonton has all sorts of talent. It's just a matter of locating them and finding them. If people need help in that, you know, tap in after the smoke is clear. I play all sorts of music from all over Alberta and all over Canada. But yeah, man.
you put me on some amazing artists. So shout out to you, man. Like, you're doing great work.
Thanks, dude. Yeah, I mean, dude, I put so much time into just digging. Like, honestly, I wouldn't be able to do it if I had to hold the day job at the same time, because it's just I'm constantly trying to listen to new music from artists, and there's so much of it, dude. But yeah, eventually I'll know all of the artists in Canada. That's the goal. It's a lofty aspiration, but I'm after it, man. Yeah, dude. Can I ask you a couple more of these how important questions? How important is...
Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna keep my answers shorter now so we can.
So, all good. Yeah, we can go through a few here. How important is writing love songs?
I don't think it's important. I think there's people who write love songs and there's people who don't. So I think love songs will be written. I don't think it's necessary for everybody. The reason I say that is because you can hear when an album does that.
Yeah.
You can have 90% gangster music or something that's like super hard drill, whatever. And they suddenly have this one song that's got, you know,
this is the one for the ladies.
Or, yeah, mix, and they've got like Senorita, this. It plays a lot like they're pandering to that audience, and it also just feels more like appropriation than anything. So if you don't do love songs and don't want to do love songs, that's okay. Don't do. There's someone out there who will.
Another thing that I wanted to ask, I've been asking artists like about their new projects. So this is kind of out of order, but to take it back to when we were talking about IRL, your project next week, has your style been evolving? Would you say that this more R&B influenced is something that will stick around, or was this a one project kind of a sound? Like, did you make this project to have this sound and that next one might be something else, or should people expect more of this kind of R&B sound from you?
I think it's kind of in the middle, where this project was a challenge to see if I could do it. Now that I've got that tool in like my utility belt, it's like now I can pull out whenever needed. So I think my every project doesn't sound the same to me. I feel like I get better with each project, and I'm unlocking new things.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say, okay, the next project is going to be exactly the same, but I'm not going to say it's going to be exactly different. I think now when I want to lean into the R&B side, I will be able to do that better.
Yeah.
When I want to sing, I'll be able to sing better, but it also doesn't mean that you're going to get the exact same project again. So yeah, for me, it's more like you should be evolving but not sounding the same.
There you go. I was just going to say evolution, constant evolution. Just keep adding tools to the tool set or whatever. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just listening to it, I also thought to myself, like, okay, but there are, to use Kanye as an example again, like 808s and Heartbreak, like he kind of kept elements of that beyond that album or whatever for sure. But that was definitely a like, I want this album to sound like this. And then I'm on to the rest of what I do or whatever. But yeah.
Which I think is good though, because also it helps you identify eras of music. So you can say, old Kanye, you can say 808's Kanye, you can say Yeezus Kanye. Right. So I think he's one of those people who maybe outside of the first 3 projects, pretty much every project sounds different. Yeah. Like it's the same Kanye. Like it's weird though, because I do feel like the
similar elements.
And then lyrics went down. But other than that, every project is different.
Well, he used to have like whoever, Consequence or Rhyme Fest, or I'm sure he still has some people helping out with pen game every now and again. But anyways, who knows? How important is a local reputation?
Okay, this one is a bit interesting because I think there's arguments both sides. Today in the streaming world, people will say you don't need to have a local audience because you don't need to perform locally. I personally think it's important if you consider yourself like an MC, I would say audience and local presence is important because an MC's job is not just making music, it's commanding the audience, having the resources to bring people together. Because also part of that involves sometimes like social change and social activism, right? So you can't really do much in your community if your community doesn't know who you are. Yeah. Also, if you don't go into your community, you don't even know what they need. So it's hard for you to speak to anything. Whereas if you're just in it for the music and here to make money, then by all means, go and do it wherever you want because for you, it won't matter, right? Like even if people locally knew you, but again, you're getting more streams or more money in Japan, your problem is going to move to Japan. So, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, man. That's a good answer. I think the distinction between MC and rapper is one that a lot of people don't know or, I don't know, forget about or overlook. But I agree with you completely that an MC is supposed to talk for their community and should probably be in their community from time to time. Yeah, that makes sense. How important is having a manager? How about that one?
Ooh, I've been wrestling with this one. So the biggest piece of advice I would give when it comes to this is that you need a manager when you have something to manage. So if you're up and coming and you can do majority of the things yourself, you don't need a manager. The reason I say that is 1, you need to learn all the things that your manager needs to do. So when you get a manager, you can direct them on what you need. 2, your manager takes a percentage of your profits. Percentage of 0 is 0. So yes, you want the manager to help you make more money, but realize that it's going to be a loss first because you're not making any money on your own.
There's got to be something on the income line for them to be taking a chunk of. Yeah,
exactly. And also, it's also a better leverage conversation at that point because if someone's taking you from ground 0 and makes you a star, you owe them more. It's just a principle because you didn't do a lot of the work yourself. Yeah. Whereas if you've been self-managed for a little bit, it takes longer. It's a bit of a grind. But when your manager comes in, they're coming in saying, oh, I saw you do this crazy thing at that festival, or I heard your crazy project. I want to invest in you. You're like, cool. If you want to invest, this is how much you got to put in, or this is how much I'm giving you that I'm willing to give. The rest of it is mine. Because if I hadn't made it to this point, you wouldn't be here. You came to me because you saw something. Yeah. So managers are needed. I think not everyone needs to be self-managed because it's tiring. It takes a lot of work. And also it takes time away from creating the music. Yeah. But not everyone should get a manager right away.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's a good answer. Okay, let's move on. Do you have any tips for staying inspired as an artist? That's what I'll ask you from the tip section here. Tips for staying inspired.
Just consume art. And when I say consume art, it does need to be your own. So for me, when I listen to music, I get inspired when I hear like a dope beat or I hear a song where I'm like, yo, that's crazy. But that's usually if I'm already riding a creative wave. If I'm feeling kind of stuck in a rut, I need to experience something else because when I'm listening to music, I'm analyzing it. I'm thinking, how did this work? Da, 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 da. So if my brain is just not like feeling in that mood, it almost sounds more like noise to me. It's like, oh man, I wish I could make a song like this or blah, blah, blah. Whereas if I'm looking at a painting or some kind of structure that I don't usually know how to do it, I just look at them like, oh, this is beautiful. Like I love how I just like it, and like just being able to appreciate it makes you appreciate art more.
Yeah.
And it's easy to kind of come back into it and do whatever. Because also you can make like interpretations of it. Like, so I might see a beautiful painting because I don't paint. The best way for me to talk about it is put it in a rap. And it's like, oh, well, there you go. I'm back to writing because I was able to, yeah.
Hell yeah, man. I like that. I agree. Intake all types of art, read books.
Reading is great.
Just keep intaking all sorts. Even like watching good shows and stuff, like can give you idea for a line or whatever. Yeah, just intake stuff around you. I think some people get caught in a trap, and I mean it happened to me too in my 20s or whatever. Just like you get so obsessed with making your own music that you stop listening to anything other than like what you're working on right then. And that's a good way to get stuck in a rut, I feel like. But yeah, dude, good answer.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Okay, so I ask everybody these ones before you go here. Can you describe the Calgary hip hop scene?
Oh yeah. This is one of the questions you ask all the time. Funny enough, I didn't even like memorize anyone else's answers, so I guess this is my own perspective. Oh no.
I don't think that the podcast has made it to a place where anybody is coming on here like ready for me to ask them these things. Yeah. But one day people will be like, I knew you were gonna ask it. We're getting there.
You'll get there. I think you will, because like I think. Okay, I ramble, so I'm just going to get straight to your answer before I start saying other things.
All good.
Calgary music scene, I think the one word you'll hear from most people is either diverse or eclectic. And to me, I'm like, it's great because essentially the city is a blank canvas. You can paint or do whatever you want to do because there's no established scene yet. I think we have a scene in that there are active artists in the scene,
right,
but there's no one Calgary sound. There's no one Calgary artist that the world knows or that the whole of Canada knows. Whereas when you go to places like Toronto, we immediately think Drake. We immediately think The Weeknd. We immediately think dark, moody tones.
Yeah, or various different American cities all have the sound that is that city's sound.
The sound, the Cali sound, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So the beauty in that is that there's so much space for us to experiment and figure out what our sound is. The only problem is that it kind of leaves things a little too open-ended,
right,
where the signs of success have not been defined in Calgary yet. They haven't even, I don't even think like even within Alberta, they've been defined, because when you look at the history of hip hop, you'd be like, oh, this one song put this city on the map. After this song, people started going to Miami for production. After this, trap music started, every other artist passed. Because you can see the lineage. You'll see, okay, after Kanye West, we got all these artists. After T.I., we got all these trap artist music. Whatever.
Yeah. T.I. had trap music in 2002 or whatever his album was called, Trap Music.
No, it's crazy. It's crazy. But that's why I love, because when you go into it, you should be able to work it backwards and be like, where did this stuff start?
Hell yeah.
So Calgary is in that moment of trying to figure out what is our spark that's going to actually bring attention to us and to our sound, but also we have to kind of establish a sound sooner or later, so that is something that people can gravitate towards. So because of that, like, there's a lot of different things going on in the city. You've got open mic events, you've got different cliques over there, you've got fashion stuff. So I think it's a fun city to come to because there's just so much selection. It's just also harder to find these things because it's sometimes isolated information. So unless you know this group, you have no idea what's going on in the city.
Yeah.
And what happened is, like, I will get invited to an event the same night as 3 other events. I'm like, how do the 3 of you not know the hip hop scene in Calgary or just in Alberta is so small?
Yeah.
Maybe have, like, just to put it into like simple math, you maybe are trying to reach 10 people. And if you've got 3 events going on, you've got 3 people there, 3 people here, 3 people there. I mean, we're not going to get very far because we're segregating the crowd too much.
I agree completely, man. And that's again the click thing, right? Like if the scenes came together, it's a stronger scene.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. Because that's also how you unify the sound. Because if you're doing something there and someone else is doing something there, I'll take a piece of what you're doing. They'll take a piece of what I'm doing. And then if we're all consistently doing it, it's like, okay, you know that weird banjo I keep hearing in hip hop? Apparently that's a Calgary thing.
Right.
I'm not really a fan of it, but at least now we know that that's what Calgary sounds like.
Yeah. That makes sense. Totally. Yeah. And I mean, I think being around other artists and, constant, whether it's at ciphers or whatever other gatherings, I think you'll naturally start picking up stylistic adaptations from those people, right? And the sound does sort of start to coalesce a little bit better. Yeah, as people actually start to break down those walls and go hang out with one another and go to each other's shows and shit. I think it's super important, man. Yeah, what else did I need to ask you here? Oh, yeah, of course. This one should be pretty easy for you to name some people from Calgary that other people should be up on and probably aren't. Other artists.
Sweet. So it's easy but hard because I'm like, I want to say everybody, and it's such a long list. So I'm just going to power through. Anyone I forget or didn't mention, I love you still. It's just high pressure situation.
Yeah.
So top of mind are K-Riz, Sincere, and Moto. Mainly because they're performing at our next Hip Hop event, and they're just amazing artists that I think for me, I've had the privilege of seeing their growth over the last years.
Pump the brakes for 1 second. Does K-Riz live in Calgary now? Like, I knew K-Riz when I lived in Edmonton and he lived in Edmonton. Has he relocated to Calgary? I didn't know.
We've claimed him. Edmonton, watch out. We're poaching all of your rappers because we've got I'm not saying that we have Moraine, but I know Moraine is definitely in Calgary more often now.
Dude, my homie Self from the Liberators just was posting about how he moved to Calgary yesterday. So yeah, there's maybe migration of rap talent coming south.
It's just warmer here. That's all it is, honestly. I think.
You know what's even warmer? Lethbridge. Yeah. we're what 40 minutes away from the border or something, man. It's like summer down here all year. But,
I've been looking for an excuse to come to Lethbridge, though. I need to see what the scene is like there. I actually need to come to there.
If you want to book something, man, get at me. I can point you in the right direction to book some people and get some support down here.
The Lethbridge collaboration started here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So who else I want to mention? Obviously Rubik's, Moraine, like I mentioned, BVT, Z the Free, Dizzy Walker.
That's a name I'm not familiar with.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I'll have to search him. Does he have music out?
He does. So he's from Zimbabwe, but grew up in Botswana. So that's kind of how we linked up. I was like, I heard him in an interview. I heard his accent. I was like, that guy's from Zim. Reached out to him. I just knew. I was like, he's one of us. But I'm just really impressed by him because he's 21, 22. So I met him when he was like maybe 18, 19. He was already running his own open mic show. It was called A Night with Dizzy. And I asked him, okay, so what made you want to do this? And he's like, first of all, there's not enough shows in Calgary, so I don't get to see a lot of artists. Second of all, it was my way of getting to meet artists because it's his show. So at the end, he always performed music.
Nice.
But the opening slots were for other artists. So for him, he was like, if I can put other people onto these artists, but also get to meet them, by the time I'm done with this, because he was doing this, I think, once a month. Okay. He's like, by the end of a year, you've had 12 opportunities to meet artists. You've had 12 opportunities to perform. Because that was the other thing he said. He was like, I want to perform like consistently. Yeah. So by the time we're actually doing shows, I've got that stage presence up. And I was like, how old? You're like years above your age, man. Like,
that's a big vision for somebody that young. Yeah, man. I was just gonna say that's an interesting vision, even just in general, to have like a night like that where he's going to perform at the same venue. Is it the same venue every
venue? Yeah. So I think for them it's also consistent business, right? Because they know every Friday night this kid's bringing these people, and because he was in high school, he was bringing the high school crowd. So they're getting a fresh audience that's going to grow with them. I was like, this is ingenious. This is crazy.
That's smart.
So cool. Yeah. So for him, it's his music, but also just his business mindset is something that I'm really, really, really proud of.
How many freestyle nights are there in Calgary then? There's that one. Like I see you guys out in the park freestyling sometimes on IG.
That's Z the Free's one.
Z the Free, yeah. Right.
You've got the Haven Vanguard. They've got a Haven party. So that's kind of like jazz band led by Timothonius, and then you just come in and freestyle or whatever you want to do. You've got Hip Hop. So that's us. So that's myself and Third Verse Studio. So Nee. Also DJ Catfish, he's our resident DJ.
Ship Hop's at the Crown and Anchor or whatever, right?
Ship and Anchor.
Ship and Anchor. Yeah, damn. I'm not from Calgary, man. I've been to that bar once or twice, but yeah.
So for someone who's not from here, you sound like you know the spots. So yeah, we host, it's every 3 months. So essentially what we do is we grab 3 main acts that'll perform throughout the night. Because what I noticed was that when it comes to showcases, people always just do this thing where I'm going to bring 5 artists, they're going to perform, then everyone goes home. And the issue with that is, okay, well, if I only like one of the five, I'm just gonna text my homie, be like, yo, what time you on? You're on at 10?
Yeah.
Okay, this one starts at 7. I'm gonna show up at 10 and leave at 10:30. It's like, so you don't have the audience that stays. The whole idea of the show is to expose them to other artists, but they keep coming for their one friend and then leaving. So again, that's also why the city is not getting to know the artist, because you're not staying for the artist.
Dude, I want to say to talk about that problem a little bit. In I want to say 2013, 2014, I did a show with the Liberators and Kaz Mega and Straight Gutter and some other dudes up in Edmonton, and we decided that we would switch. Like, none of us left the building at any point. We were just two sets or two songs each, and then the next guy jumps on, and then the next guy jumps on, and so it just rotated through, and that way, like, nobody gets to leave. There is no like, oh, okay, our homie's done performing, let's go down the street to the next bar or whatever. Like, it kept everybody in the venue, and it was fun, man. Just doing 2 tracks and then kind of slapping hands and passing the mic off or whatever. It was dope, man.
Dope. I love that. That's a really cool. I'm gonna think about that, because that might be a cool way to do shows here.
The thing is you need a DJ who's down with everybody, right? Who is able to carry that show. So
that's true.
Shouts to Baggy Lean and DJ Dice. They were on the 1s and 2s that night, and now they DJ for After the Smoke is Clear. So stick with your people.
That's great. As you grow, they grow, and everyone grows.
Exactly.
Yeah. So the format for Ship Hop is that we've got an open mic, because also I don't really know that many open mics that are strictly for rap, because you end up doing like poetry open mics and the audience is different. And like, oh, this is cool, but I don't know what to do with this. So starts off with open mic, then we have the first feature act, then we do rap games. So just trying to, like, again, elevate everybody's rap ability. So we just do these little rap challenges. Whoever wins gets a prize. The audience gets excited because they want to throw words at you. So it also makes sure that at every level, someone's participating, So you've got the artists who's come to participate. You've got the audience giving their 2 cents.
So for the rap games, is it a big emphasis on freestyles? That's another thing I like asking people, is how important is the ability to freestyle? Can I toss that one to you?
Yes, if you want to be an MC, freestyle is a must. If you just want to be a hip hop artist, then okay, fine, you don't have to freestyle. But I think it's a super important tool to have, because it also helps you just in writing lyrics, right? Like, you'll be in there stuck on a line, but the stickiness is not that you can't write. It's just that you keep having these ideas you keep saying no to.
It's perfectionism.
Like, exactly. Yeah. Perfectionism. Whereas freestyle is like, oh, I just said something weird. Anyway, we're going with it. And you just keep going, and it opens your mind. And it's such a useful tool, because you can use that in life as well, with interviews or whatever else. So
yeah, totally, man. I like that answer. I agree completely. Yeah. Well, yeah, if there's, you named some Calgary artists. I feel like we covered all the bases here, man. I think we did it. And, we're a couple minutes over an hour, but yeah, pretty much on point. Thanks for doing this, man.
It was a pleasure talking to you, bro. Like I said, I love seeing you just bring more people to the forefront and just the conversations you have. So it's an honor to finally be on this side with you.
I'm just trying to ask questions that, CBC might not ask people or whatever, like a little bit of a lyricist insight or whatever goes a long ways, I think, just talking to other lyricists. I find it really easy talking to artists, man. Like, we're all similar people, I feel like, in the running around doing art. But anything to plug coming up that we should tell people about before we go?
So I've done my best to kind of like throw things in here throughout the whole conversation.
Yeah.
But to zone in, IRL comes out on Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, November 3rd. So peep for that. KTheChosen on all social media and streaming platforms.
Yep.
But you can also just go to my website, KTheChosen.com, and everything's kind of centralized there. So yeah, check me out. Check out One Big Jam. Also check out Ship Hop, because if you're in Calgary, I think it's a dope show to be a part of, and it's a great place to meet other artists. So I think it's ship.hop on Instagram, and then Third Verse.
How often does Ship Hop happen?
Every 3 months. So we're a quarterly show. So that's the thing too, where you kind of need to follow the page to find out when the next show is and who's performing, because it doesn't happen that often.
Okay.
First thing being, like, we're just like, it's a very interesting format, so we need time to plan it and make sure that everything is running smoothly.
Yeah.
Also, the Ship Anchor is a very popular venue, so we can't be there all the time, which is great though, because I feel like sometimes less is more. Get people to really show that this show is worth keeping, and if you guys keep coming to the show, we'll make more shows.
Dope. All right, man. Well, yeah. Unless there's anything else you wanted to get off your chest, this has been fun, dude. Thanks for doing this.
No, thanks for the conversation, and catch you next time.
Hell yeah. Peace.
Oh, thanks.
All right, everybody. So that was KTheChosen, Calgary representative, doing what he can to spread love around the Calgary scene. Like he said, IRL comes out next week on Friday. If you don't know, make sure you tap in. Mixcloud.com/dubious is where I do After the Smoke is Clear mixes every week. We're playing independent music from all these artists I talk to. I play 95% Canadian content. Never play the same stuff twice. It's all new release hip hop. It's not all boom bap. Some episodes are all boom bap, but some episodes are all trap. Today's episode season 4, episode 32, it's all trap, and it was mixed by DJ Dice. So tap in and definitely check that one out. It's worth a listen. And yeah, thanks for coming by. On Tuesday, I talked to DK, the producer. Oh, no, shoot. It's not going to be Tuesday. I'm lying. It's going to be Monday. Monday, October 30th, because the 31st, Tuesday, is Halloween. So we decided to do the 30th. I'm talking to DK, the producer, Halifax-based producer, who has an album coming up with lots of good guests on it. That should be fun. Make sure you tap in for that. If you haven't, hit follow. If you feel like supporting, you can always hit subscribe. And if you have Amazon Prime, you can link it to your Twitch account and then subscribe for free. And that helps me out a ton. Dubious.com is the hub. You can go over there and check out posts that I make for every one of these interviews and every After the Smoke is Clear episode as well. All right, take it easy, everybody.